I think the opportunity here is more about reclaiming the relationships that have maybe not been lost, but were interrupted whenever so much of this wetlands in this area that we call Portland today was built up and industrialized. So we're looking at a very industrialized landscape. And how do we reclaim that for other healthy uses? And so the tribal gathering garden represents a place for us to plant medicinal, edible, basket making, native bird habitat, insectaries, holding the soil together, collecting water. All of those will be happening as we do this, but there's the piece of the urban and tribal native community being able to come to this place for not just berry picking, but for ceremony, for teaching, for just appreciating once more this place.
I'm standing right now on what is known as the KFD landfill site. When I first visited this site in 1980, it was a gravel quarry, and if you can imagine, at that time it was 80 feet deep, so it was a giant hole in the ground. It's really exciting for me, especially considering the long history I've had with this site. I never imagined back then that this property would be anything but a kind of an ugly vacant lot, and it's going to be an incredibly beautiful park. I think it's amazing.
The other piece is going to be the trail system that crosses the park and providing these views. When the park is built, we'll sort of have come full circle in the sense that, well, we won't really know that it's a landfill anymore. And the tribal gathering area occupies this promontory in the park, which has just really wonderful views going to both Mount Hood, Mount Adams, looking up the gorge. People will come to appreciate this pretty quickly once the park is opened.
We were encouraged to think outside of the box of the potential for a landfill, brownfield site to be developed into a public park. Right away, my mind went to the richness of the culture in this particular neighborhood, but also for an opportunity for Native people to really be engaged in the development of this project and highlight the significance of land to community.
This site is part of, it's symbolic in reclaiming a place that was the ultimate of blight as kind of an industrial landfill, and reclaiming that and then reseeding it and repopulating it with native plants that have cultural significance.
We get lots of landfills. People give us landfills. I think this project is important because Portland Parks and Recreation is seeing a way to build a park in a different way.
You forget that we're on a Brownsfield site. And what it's nice about it is that this land deserves just as much energy and positive visioning as any other piece of land. And how much more important for us to put that type of heart into a space like this that needs healing as we heal ourselves. To know that there's hope for undoing some of the mistakes that have been done in the past. And this is the hard work that we have in our generation, and we have to roll up our sleeves and move forward and really reach out to not just the Native community, but the entire community for the resources and ideas and visions that they can bring to a project like this to discover who we are in this place and what our story is here.
Well, I think one of the things that I get excited about with this project are the opportunities, the learning opportunities for all the parties involved.
Hi everyone, my name is Riddhi De Cruz, and I got to Portland in 2010 from India. Really excited to take part in what I knew was a growing counterculture movement here.
I feel like they have revisited how to engage community in so many different ways, because the intention is to include the community and draw them in and really make this a shared vision.
I started attending advisory meetings, and we were planning the design of the park, and there was a lot of emphasis on the fact that it was a brownfield and it was being reclaimed. So we wanted to make sure that it was going to be healthy and that it would be safe for people to come to the park.
The sampling plan involved collecting a lot of soil samples all over the park and looking for pretty much every contaminant that you can look for. We usually involve the community at the tail end of a cleanup or an investigation to say, okay, this is what we did, are you okay with this? This time it was involving them to begin with and saying, okay, this is what we're going to look for. What do you think? And what are your suggestions? And the level of involvement and commitment from the Community Involvement Committee really helped make the sampling event that much stronger, because the key goal is to have people feel confident that the park that they're going to enjoy for many years is indeed safe.
This is a really new partnership model for Portland Parks and Recreation. We are learning how to give up power and actually invite people in and let the community be much more integrally involved in decision making. It's an important model for us to learn how to do, because we as a government are increasingly constrained in what we can and cannot develop on our own. And I think having partnerships like the partnership with Verde and Us Build Cully Park will allow us to actually provide more assets in communities.
Our park system, our regional systems are really challenged with how to fund maintenance and bring in community priorities into projects that are ahead of us to use. We're at the threshold, stepping across that threshold actually into a new way of building projects in partnership with community and public. It's very rich. It's very forward-looking, I believe.
Engaging underrepresented populations by seeking, listening to, and respecting the knowledge, wisdom, and expertise that local people have of their communities is essential to the value of public health. The community engagement strategy began with a door-to-door survey of neighbors living close to the park. A community involvement committee was formed. We met monthly in the library of the local elementary school. Transportation assistance, childcare, meals, and interpreters were available at every meeting. We recognized that as agency and organization staff, we were being paid for our time and expertise at the monthly meetings. We felt it was important, and were able to provide stipends to all of the people who participated in the process to honor and value the expertise and local knowledge that they brought.
The Portland State University senior capstone classes that I teach, we've been coming out the last 6 months, visiting the Cully Park site, attending the Portland Youth and Elders Council meetings. Several of the students have sat in on the meetings with all the partners involved at Cully. And the feedback I get from the students is this is an incredible opportunity to see how partnerships can happen.
The willingness of the city and other governmental agencies to work with the Native community shows that there's a shift that's taking place.
Old relationships are being recast, and there's a lot of relationship building and a lot of trust building that's going on right now. And I think that's really exciting because it's creating new ways of interacting with each other.
There are multiple layers to the story that is here, and it spreads into the past and it spreads into the future, and it symbolizes hope to me. This is what sustainability looks and feels like.
Here we are in a time where we are defining what it means to have a tribal garden in an urban landscape. And as you start looking through some of the things that have been communicated by the community, space for drumming and dancing, that we have signage reflecting Indian history and culture, and protection of knowledge, as well as sharing knowledge.
The Tribal Gathering Garden, for me, is an example in holistic sustainability because it puts indigenous cultural revitalization at the center.
If you look at the history of indigenous peoples throughout the globe, there's the opportunity for people to co-inhabit in regions that are rich in biological diversity and really healthy, vibrant landscapes. That people can heal the land. This is a belief that is counter to what a lot of people hold in modern society, and we want to challenge that assumption and hold up the belief that people have the ability and historically really have played a really important role on the landscape in bringing about a healthy and vital place.
From an indigenous perspective, we look at the land and we can see in the 21st century how past land practices like landfills and have really disturbed the natural system, have disturbed in many ways as not just a watershed or a food shed, but its intrinsic value and just existing for its own beauty, its own function as a sacred space or as a food or as medicine.
Our design isn't just about people. Our design's about habitat and wildlife and thinking about how the water is flowing on the site and how we can really create a system that is healthy and reciprocal and gives back to not just us but to the habitat beyond.
Because we're so intertwined with our surroundings and with the plant world and with our urban landscapes, I feel like to restore a landscape, we are also restoring ourselves. You can't keep them separate.
It allows us to transmit knowledge from our elders to our youth. It really starts to close a gap of tradition that has been lost.
The mission of the Cully Park Tribal Gathering Garden is to provide the Native community and tribes whose ceded land includes the Cully Park site with a place to commune, cultivate indigenous foods and materials for cultural practices and traditions, and to restore associated knowledge, skills, and ethics.
Whenever we're, on the lands of this region, we're stepping on ceded lands. Tribes of the Slet and the Grand Ronde and others, the Malawa and the Chinook and other tribes that inhabited this region, they ceded this land, and in doing so, they retained their rights to hunt and fish and gather traditional foods and medicines on the ceded lands.
Everything that we do in this nation is on ceded land, and yet we don't often do a good job of acknowledging that Native American history as a part of American history. There's historical trauma associated with the loss of place for Native people. So this piece of land here is really quite significant in that it gives us an opportunity to acknowledge the history and sacred relationship that Native people have in place.
This is an opportunity for our community to come back to this place, this landfill, Cully Park site, and begin that healing with not only the land but ourselves as we create a relationship or restore or reclaim the relationship we've always had with the land. A mixed Willamette Valley
Plus
wildflower mix. Packets, I think, are beautiful with that.
with Mount Hood on
The
them.
Mount Hood
Okay,
image.
50
Packets with the Mount Hood. Maybe a couple of ceremonial containers
Okay.
for people who just want to take a small amount and spread those seeds.
Okay.
Part of the ceremony on Wednesday, after welcomes and introductions and a little history of this site and how the community has come together to bring it to this point, prayers will be offered. The land blessing ceremony will take place, and then as part of that ceremony, everyone in attendance will be invited to take a small handful of the seeds and walk the land and scatter those, and rain or shine.
All things good in in a really broad sense, that it could be the nourishment that we receive from the food, the sustenance, the sustaining life that's provided, or the fact that it's just really delicious tasting food, or that we're really happy as we come together in community.
Before we head up, I invite you to warm your hands around a cup of tea and bring that with you. To sip tea together is like a handshake, one of our elders said. It's like we've agreed to this being together.
And to come together in community and celebrate the fact that we have this wonderful project that has kind of arisen out of community.
And I really want to thank Donita and all of the tribal folks for all the effort they have put into helping us to create the tribal plant gathering area.
Looking at the challenges of the landfill and how do we reclaim the health of the land as we reclaim our health as Native people, but also as a community.
And moving forward, we have an opportunity to really have some strong visions for what the future holds. And I think the most powerful thing is that by communicating with each other, by sharing our visions with each other, that we're going to come up with something far more creative, and meaningful, and important than what we can figure out on our own. And so I'm really excited and blessed to be somebody who's coordinating that type of work.
Say a prayer about all the people here, because we came here to enjoy this land today, and it's such a beautiful day that we're having out here. So, Jianjigazo Pinji, Otagazi Winag, Dipsko, Wigwam, Gay, O Abnas, O Dana, O Deama, O Adio, Indinijimoen, We Baba Kamagata Warana, Aki, Ichigumi, Beneske, Miskojigan, Aninde, Gigadoen, Ogije Manitou, Kasona, Missigego ga Giji Tut Gabe Awainin, Giji Gudenda, Owain Sain Onji, Ojichikate Onji, Migoch Gich Manitou, for all the things that you have given to us, for all these people that are here today, for this land here that you have, all the land all over the world. We thank you for this little place that we live, this planet that we call Earth, that gets so small every day, gets small. We thank you for this place that we live. It's such a beautiful place, and all the creatures that you have on there. Help us to protect them things. Help us to understand them things. Because we know that we are a part of that. We are a part of that. I'll sing this song there. This is a song from my reservation. Came to my son. I'll sing this song. Hey, 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 Getegano Manitou, Getegano Manitou, Getegano